Broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. It's time for Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services. We are the cornerstone of security in the Southeast.
Welcome to Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services. I'm your host, Rick Strawn, the president of Paradigm Security. We're excited to be with you today on Business RadioX. We're broadcasting live from the Moxie Awards, which are being held at the Gas South District by the Gwinnett Chamber. A bunch of lovely ladies and powerful women going to be in there competing, and it's going to be an awesome day. In addition to Paradigm Security Services, this show is also brought to you by Soulsby's Garage. In every show, we feature businesses and organizations in the Atlanta area, especially those that serve Gwinnett County. The people that serve Gwinnett County are also extremely important, and we're going to deal with that part of it today. While all businesses have security concerns, not all are about physical security. We will touch on that and other related aspects of security as we go through the course of our shows. Everybody knows what's going on right now. We're heading into those election seasons, and we're right in the middle of it. And we've got a very, very, very important election coming up in November. One of the things that I always tell people is to vote. It's very important. But even more important is to vote informed. So know what these people stand for, know what their positions are, know how they feel, get to know the person a little bit. And toward that end, I've got attorney Matt Reeves. Glad to have you here again, Matt.
Thank you, Rick. Great to be here.
He is the Republican nominee for the State House District 99 with Suwanee, Sugar Hill, and Duluth. It is awesome to have you in here, Matt. I've kind of watched you go. We've been friends for a long time. Went through Leadership Gwinnett together. I know you personally and know the quality and integrity that you represent. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here, so that you could share with the people what your positions are and a little bit of that integrity that I know that you are easily espousing.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate you having me on the show with the Moxie Awards that the Gwinnett Chamber is putting on today, and I want to definitely say hats off to all the professional women in there. I look forward to joining that event after we're done. I've got 3 co-workers who were nominees in that awards ceremony. One's Melody Glauton, who you and I know. We were in Leadership Gwinnett together about 10 years ago, and she and I went to law school together at Mercer before I transferred to Georgia. And then Joletta Smith, who's a Gwinnett native, lives in Peachtree Corners, is a great appellate lawyer and has worked in federal court, Georgia Supreme Court, and proud to have her at our firm the last several years. Have enjoyed getting to work with her. Also, Haley Nikolich, who's an LSU graduate but came to Georgia through UGA Law School and has been doing a great job litigating the last few years. So professional women, I mean, they have worked hard, broken glass ceilings. I'm proud for them, all those women who are getting honored today, and I join Gwinnett in honoring those professional women. You know, the hardest job and the most important job in Gwinnett County is working mom. So to see Gwinnett recognize professional women who are out there making a difference in our community is something that's a special event every year, and proud to be here with you today honoring them.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't realize is these powerful working women that are doing so well are also working moms.
That's right.
I mean, they've got the job at home that's unappreciated a lot of times, and then they turn around and they go to work, and just the strength of some of these ladies is awesome.
You know, my late mother was an A.O. Williams insurance agent. That's who Primerica purchased and became. So when I pass by that building, it reminds me of, you know, her working hard when I was growing up. My mother-in-law, who lives in the community, is a retired educator, and my wife, you know, tells me about how hard she worked at night grading papers and working hard to prepare those students for class. I was actually one of her students in 8th grade, so I got to see how hard she worked. But, you know, those educators and other ladies out there in the workforce, healthcare, just that's what makes Gwinnett run.
Well, you know, a lot of things make Gwinnett run, but one of the things that's absolutely important pieces of those cogs in the wheel are the people that help us in the government. And without the right people in the right places, well, quite frankly, you can see where we're at. We've got a lot of the wrong people in the right places, and we need to get the right people there. Personally, I consider you as one of those right people. You know, one of the big things that I know that you deal with, you use the word fighting a lot because you fight for people. And one of the things that you fight for is for Gwinnett taxpayers. So
That's right.
Let me know a little bit about what your ideas are and where our future lies if you're in there.
Sure, Rick. Went to Mercer and then UGA Law School and then been fighting for property owners, business people in court cases the last 20 years here in Gwinnett. I was down in court in DeKalb County yesterday on a Peachtree DeKalb Airport legal matter, but definitely fighting for Gwinnett taxpayers. I think we need to have more people at the Gold Dome and the state's second biggest county, the state's largest school system, who are looking out for Gwinnett working people and taxpayers and homeowners in particular. We're the ones paying the bills on this huge county government and the state's biggest school system. And I want to make sure that the government is treating taxpayers fairly. I really appreciate what Matthew Holtkamp has done recently running for county commission, educating people that if you have an increase in property value but then you don't roll back the millage rate, that's a tax increase. I think that's something he's doing a good job on. What I'm going to focus on at the state house level is increasing the homestead exemption. The homestead exemption has not been increased to keep up with property value increases and inflation, and we need to treat homeowners well, particularly senior homeowners. There are some specialized tax exemptions for seniors under certain circumstances, but any homeowner, I think, needs to have a robust homestead exemption, and we need to increase that dramatically in Gwinnett County. It's been about 10 years or so since the state of Georgia took a look at the property tax appeal processes. You got to do that every 10 or 15 years or so to make sure that homeowners and taxpayers in Gwinnett are not getting treated less favorably than property taxpayers in Florida or Texas or places where businesses and residents would consider moving from. We need to be welcoming to homeowners and taxpayers and not chasing them off. So, I want to look at the property tax procedures at the state level, and the state does have a big role on that. There's a big set of state statutes. Governor Kemp dusted off the books from the 1990s. Governor Barnes was from Cobb County. There were a lot of Republicans in the legislature from Cobb County in the 90s, and they enacted some pro-homeowner property tax procedures in the 90s that Governor Kemp has implemented and given a property tax homestead benefit recently, and I want to do stuff like that. I'll be fighting for the taxpayers and homeowners down at the Capitol.
Well, I know that Kemp has looked at it, Governor Kemp has looked at it, and one of the things that seems to be important to most of us is that when you pay a lot of taxes, if you have a lot left over, it kind of comes back to the people. And I know that that's part of what his philosophy is. And kind of where do you stand on that part?
I trust working people, and I don't look at it as the government's money. I look at it as the people's money. And if there are opportunities to reduce the tax burden, I'm going to do that. I think that moms and dads and small business people will spend money a lot more effectively and in a lot more beneficial impact to the economy than the government would. If you look at what's happened in Washington with 2.5 years of government spending, that's what's gotten us the inflation that we're in. I remember in economics class back at Mercer, I think it was Alan Greenspan who said you need to take the punch bowl away before the party gets too crazy when it comes to inflation, and that didn't happen. They ended up pouring a couple more things of vodka in the punch bowl rather than taking the punch bowl away, and that's what's got it. Costs $300,000 or more to build a house in Metro Atlanta today. No wonder housing's not affordable when you have that kind of inflation. We need to have a reality check and get that back to the basics of small business and the customer and the vendor out there in the market, not have a bunch of artificial government red tape and bureaucracy and spending, because that's what's gotten us in this mess we're in, where people are getting hammered at the gas pump, at the grocery store, trying to buy a house, trying to buy materials. I hear these restaurant owners, it's a double whammy. Their food and other costs are up. Their labor force is down. We need to clean out this disruption from this government spending the last few years and get back to the basics. I'm proud of what Georgia has done, of not buying into that, and I want to make sure that Georgia stays on that track of being pro-business and pro-jobs and not pro-big government.
I can tell you I know a whole lot better how to spend my money than the government does.
Absolutely.
And I think that's pretty much everybody. Well, I know that homeowners, you mentioned, the taxes, the things on the houses and so forth. There's a lot of things that homeowners could do, and I know that you fight for the homeowners as well.
That's
you
right.
got some other areas that you're looking at with the homeowners?
You bet. You look at Gwinnett County, what brought people to Gwinnett County, and I think our schools, that's number one. And
We're definitely going to talk about that.
yeah, the last 30 years, our teachers, our assistant principals, our parapros, the parents, PTAs, they have been welcomed to run a school system in an award-winning manner. And I think focusing there on the classroom, making sure that the student and the student's education is at the forefront, and that teachers are empowered to teach their students and to handle discipline issues in the classroom and to be able to work it out with their assistant principal if they need to. But, having parents and teachers empowered on education, because they're the ones who know best about student success. I don't want to see our school system go the way of a lot of school systems around the country that have gotten into things that take the focus off of academic excellence and development of kids' educational future.
Well, there's a lot of different philosophies that have found their way into our education systems. And I know that parents being active in their child's education has definitely increased since they started sending all this home. And I'm no longer a parent, but I'm a grandparent, and we can see what's going on and what they're being told and what they're being taught. And it's important to get some kind of grip on this. And our school systems, I'll just put my opinion out there, our school system has gone down tremendously. Putting in the people that are there with the school board, it's not the people, it's the philosophies and the attitudes they espouse. And we're having a big problem. The parents getting more involved, the parents getting more vocal. And I think that's awfully important, that these parents are protected from being, well, as they were, labeled terrorists and stuff. There needs to be some type of a state oversight as far as getting control on these teachers and what they're teaching.
Well, the teachers are part of the solution. They're not part of the problem. And the classroom, that's not where the problems have been. It's been in, outside agendas coming in nationwide to try to, pick off our, number one school system in the state. So here's what I'll do. As a state representative, half of our state budget or more goes to education, K through 12 education. I want to make sure that state money gets to the student in the classroom. Peachtree Ridge, North Gwinnett High School, Lanier High School, Duluth High School are the schools in House District 99. I want to make sure that they stay top-notch and that the principals, assistant principals, teachers, parents are fully supported, and that we have, the next decade and generation of success in those schools and quality of life, and that they don't take a downward turn. I think that they are great schools that a lot of teachers, administrators, parents have invested heavily in for decades. I moved here the year that Peachtree Ridge started after I graduated from UGA Law School. And you look at all the work that our community has put in Peachtree Ridge, as well as Duluth and North Gwinnett and Lanier. I want to keep that going. I don't want them to be chased off or move to some other community or county due to changes that take us off of the excellence that we've had the last 3 decades here in Gwinnett in schools. It's not too late. I share your concerns. I hear a lot of people who are concerned in the community, but one of the reasons I'm running for State House is to be an advocate and to help important things like our cities, like our schools, like our public safety, like our quality of life and tax burden here in Gwinnett. That's what I'm doing the State House run for.
Sounds awesome. And I'm in the field, of course, security, retired law enforcement. One of the things that I look at is, the safety of our school kids. Have you got any thoughts about directions that you think we might not want to go to, or we might want to go to with regards to safety and security in our schools?
Absolutely. Well, first, let me just say I'm going to listen to folks like you who know about security and law enforcement. I was driving down Sugarloaf Parkway near Peachtree Industrial the other day and saw what looked like a police car. It was kind of getting dark, and it was a Paradigm security car. And so I appreciate you filling in the gaps between law enforcement and businesses and keeping us safe. In the area I'm in, it's Duluth Police, it's Suwannee Police, and then in Sugar Hill they have Gwinnett Police. In the schools that we have in our community, we got school resource officers. I want to make sure that parents are confident that their kids are safe when they go to school, and also that the teachers and parapros and cafeteria workers and office workers at schools also feel safe. They didn't sign up to do security. They are counting on Gwinnett County Public Schools to provide good security, And school resource officers, I want to see their ranks grow rather than shrink. And I think that teachers and students in schools ought to have the same level of security that the school board does at their meetings. So I want to make sure that we don't become a soft target and that we use common sense and time-tested methods of security rather than, withdrawing security in a way that we would regret.
No, I think that's good. I know in addition, we do the patrols at Sugar Hill to supplement the sheriff's department that's primarily going over it. And it's been an experience, and we've enjoyed helping out and being a part of that system. We talked about property tax relief and all that. Do you have anything else that you want to touch base on that?
When I mentioned inflation, fiscal conservatism, I think that's the overarching theme. I think that state government ought to spend working people's taxpayer money the same way that we do. There ought to be good stewardship, and you ought not to invite the federal government in to take care of problems. Federal government has been much more of a problem creator than a problem solver. We need to make sure that Georgia has a vibrant private sector. You look at QBE, Quality Basic Education Funding in our schools. That was invented in the 1980s. QBE was not fully funded for our schools until Georgia became the #1 place to do business. And so the way to make sure that we've got abundant funds for schools, for law enforcement, for higher ed, is to make sure we've got a vibrant economy in Georgia. And so I want to be pro-jobs. I want to be fiscally conservative in a way that's going to attract businesses and taxpayers from all around the country. I want people to want to retire to Georgia and participate in their grandkids' lives. I want small business people to feel welcome here. You look at the success we've had in Gwinnett over the last 20 to 30 years. People have moved here from all around the country, all around the world. I want to keep that happening in Georgia.
Well, you mentioned law enforcement, and I did too a little bit there. I know we have a lot of problems with some of the government and some of the outside people talking about defunding, the lack of support. Of course, I'm all about back in the blue, our officers and stuff that we need. Can you see anything that you might be able to do in your position with the state to be able to help maybe these law enforcement agencies get more people?
Absolutely. And listen, that is one of the main reasons I'm running, that kind of lack of common sense that you see out there that's very militant, saying that, we ought to defund law enforcement. I want to fully fund Duluth Police, Suwannee Police, Gwinnett Police. I want to make sure that our communities are safe and that young people look at being a police officer as a good line of work to go in, where they get to serve their community. And so I think you look at Gwinnett Tech and Georgia Gwinnett College and other colleges in the area that do criminal justice. I would like to see their programs beefed up to where they're able to get out there in schools and in middle schools and high schools and communicate to these young people in the diversity of Metro Atlanta that, look, if you're bothered by a gap between your community and law enforcement, go into it yourself. Washington talks about free college, and things get expensive when they're free.
Yeah.
But you could go to Gwinnett Tech or a local college and live at home or live in, have a roommate, get a good education, not go into debt, and have a gun and a badge and a career with benefits, and be respected in your community and make a positive difference. So that's the kind of thing I'll do out there in the State House, is point out ways for our young people not to feel like victims, but to feel like citizens. We got to do that every generation in America, to give people the truth about American citizenship. Talk to anybody who's moved here from outside America, and they will tell you all about the American dream. We need to renew that with our young people and let them know that they can be teachers, they can be law enforcement officers, they can be in health care. Those are great needs that we have around Metro Atlanta, and they could get a good education and do that and make a positive impact in their community.
Well, and that they don't necessarily have to go to a 4 years or 6 years or 8 year college and build up a lot of debt. There's a lot of things that you can do that give you a good income that I know I've very much enjoyed my career as a law enforcement officer. Don't know if I would enjoy it as much nowadays. It's something that we need to get back to, where people look forward. The biggest problem is the lack of support that they get from their leaders and the administrations that they work for. But if anybody wants to understand the importance of, say, a resource officer in a school, if they want to get their kids to know the police officer, let them get with some of these resource people, these resource officers. They are an awesome bridge between the law enforcement and the school kids as far as helping them trust them and feel comfortable around them. These are some really good people.
Also, I want Georgia to make sure that we welcome retired law enforcement and military people to go into education and other careers. Those are folks who have spent years and decades living out that saying, ask not what your country or your community can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country and your community. Mm-hmm. They've done that already, and they ought to be welcomed in schools. And if there's red tape or barriers that are, hindrances to retired law enforcement and military to be in education in Georgia, definitely that's something I want to work on, because those are the kind of folks you want to have, those men and women in front of our young people, teaching them about the real world and common sense and how to pursue education.
It'd also be a great way to help out on the shortages of teachers.
That's right.
Because we definitely have a shortage there.
And nursing.
And nursing.
Yep. There are a lot of hot topics with healthcare in the public arena, but what I see is one of the biggest threats right now is the shortage of personnel, of nursing and other healthcare workers who carry on the good work that Northside, Lawrenceville, and Duluth and other healthcare providers in the community give. But we got to make sure that we've got a pipeline from high school and tech school and college to healthcare quick, because we've got a shortage that is really jeopardizing our healthcare network in the area.
Well, it just points out that we've got shortages in so many areas that are so important to our society. Law enforcement, for any of the first responders, education, healthcare, restricting people for lack of vaccines and stuff like that has caused a lot of it. And we need to get back to some kind of normalcy. And, everybody says, well, what is normal? Well, I kind of think normal was the way it was back a couple of years ago before we got crazy. We talked a little bit about the school systems and working to keep the political correctness out of them. You got any focuses that you kind of would look at doing that or trying to work on to get that out of their school systems?
Well, again, my approach on the schools, it's always going to be practical and common sense, and I'm not going to, pick fights unnecessarily. But
exactly.
I think when you compromise academic excellence, school discipline, school safety, that's when you've got to get all hands on deck and have some checks and balances. So that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm not running for school board, I'm running for state representative, but with that state money there, I want to make sure that North Gwinnett, Peachtree Ridge, Lanier, Duluth High School stay top notch on academic excellence, school safety, and school security. That's what my focus will be.
Well, you got the right focus there, because those are the areas that are most important moving forward for society as a whole. The quality of life in Gwinnett, you got Georgia's largest district, and it's actually its second largest county. There's always been Gwinnett County the place to live, work, and play. And do you feel it's still that way, or do you feel like we strayed from that, or that you just want to focus on keeping us that way?
I'll tell you who's getting it right, and that's Duluth and Suwanee and Sugar Hill. Suwanee coined that term in large respects back in the 90s and early 2000s about live, work, play. And you look at the Suwanee Greenway and amenities like that. They're opening a park just to the west of Buford Highway in downtown Suwanee soon. Making sure that we've got safe communities, good schools, a vibrant public arena. You look at the Duluth Fall Festival, what they do. They have hundreds of volunteers, a lot of whom are seniors and retirees who are giving back to their community and putting in a good festival every year. You look at the arts community. I think we got a good arts community and public art, and that says a lot about priorities and well-roundedness in communities. Recreation. You cut on NFL football, and you're going to see some Gwinnett grads. You cut on college football, same thing, making sure that we've got vibrant student-athlete facilities and a culture. I think that's something Gwinnett's been proud of, and I want to keep that going. So quality of life, it's well-roundedness. I was on the Parks Board in Duluth for years. I got to meet Nicole Love Hendrickson, our county commission chair, serving on that board when she was on there with me about a decade ago, and making sure that we've got a good business climate, but a well-rounded civic life. That's what I mean by quality of life. And the things that could change that for the worse, the quickest, are a dip in our schools or our public safety. So that's why I want to fight for schools and public safety so much.
Well, I know that, take for example, the Gwinnett Place Mall. There's so much revitalization that's planned there. They've got the plans coming out. Just read something again. We do the CID there for security patrols. But that's kind of the heartbeat of the county right there. And we need to really focus on getting some stuff done around there. But that's like that in several areas of our county.
I've got a war story on Gwinnett Place Mall. I know more about Gwinnett Place Mall than I want to as far as legal and real estate issues. But Mega Mart's landlord, it was Judge Sam Werbin from Chamblee, who's passed away since then. But he brought Mega Mart in. He had heard about Mega Mart. He and his business partners did. Mega Mart came in and opened that wonderful store that they have in that property. But then in the parking lot, they were going to build residential. And so at that time, some of the big department stores who also owned property, they sued Mega Mart's landlord saying, selling what you're selling there, the seafood and all that, and then putting a residential component in the parking lot, that's not a first-class mall use, and that was the term in the covenants. And we spent 5 years in court. I went to Chicago twice to, I won't call out the department store who sued them, but got 2 trips to Chicago, and finally they withdrew the lawsuit, and Mega Mart is alive and well. They didn't end up building that residential component, but they made some mistakes. The property owners did, the department stores over the years, and they should have let some residential in. Hopefully we can have more of a mixed use component there, but I do want to say I hope it's a market-based venture and it's not just some government thing, because I think the private sector is the one who does development the best. You look at Avalon, that was a private sector success story. You look at Gwinnett, all over Gwinnett, we've got private sector real estate development success stories. I hope the government doesn't mess up a good opportunity down there at Gwinnett Place Mall, because it's the traffic count, the location. It's definitely something that could be redeveloped in a way that could be a benefit to Gwinnett County. But I hope that they let the professionals do it and don't have too much of a government thing, because that's probably going to mess it up.
Well, you're in basically the same position I'm in. I'm glad the county. I'm not much for counties buying property, but I'm glad they bought that property and got it out of the hands that it was in, to where maybe we can move forward. But I'm hoping that the majority of the construction, the majority of the focus is done by private industry, that they turn that focus over to the people that are experts at it. Anything the government gets involved in building, generally it doesn't get built well. It lacks a foundation. And I'm looking to see this really be an awesome, awesome development if they do it the right way. I kind of think the focus is on doing it the right way right now. I hope so. Well, we've talked about quality of life. We've talked about properties and taxes. I know you've got a couple of endorsements that you've received.
Really thankful this week to have Georgia Chamber of Commerce's endorsement. They thoroughly vet candidates, and was proud to earn that endorsement. They are working with the businesses who are big employers and also small businesses and agribusiness all around Georgia. And they are trying to fix this inflation problem that we're getting from Washington and other fallout from COVID and spending and all that. So they're trying to turn that around here in Georgia. I'm proud to have their support. I think if we listen to our small businesses, they'll tell us how to get out of this mess that we're in right here, where people are just getting pounded every time they fill up their gas tank, go to the grocery store, try to do business or buy something. So I'm proud to have the Georgia Chamber of Commerce's endorsement, and I think that says I'll be pro-jobs and pro-business in a way that...
pro-reasonable growth.
Exactly.
I want to ask you one last question, and I think this is the question that really I push for when you talk about knowing, being informed. What makes you different? What makes you deserve? How best can you serve differently than your opponent? What makes you the person that people ought to vote for?
Well, if you look at reevesforhouse.com, my website, one thing that I put on there, back in 2008, right there as the Great Recession was hitting, I went down to the Capitol that legislative session, worked with Wendell Willard, great legislator from Sandy Springs who had been a Marine, a banker, went back to law school late in life, got elected to the legislature in his, I think, 60s. He is the one who, along with a team of people who had been trying for years to start new cities in North Fulton and North DeKalb, I got a front row seat to seeing Dunwoody created that session, and then see some of the new issues with Johns Creek and Sandy Springs and some of the new cities. Brookhaven followed after that. So I got to go down there, work on the House Judiciary Committee with Wendell Willard, who helped with the local government issues with forming those new cities to be a check and balance against some dysfunctional government in Fulton and DeKalb at the time. Just got to see what sometimes it's more important to kill a bad bill than to get a good bill passed. In the Judiciary Committee, we had, I think, over 100 bills that session to review, and a lot of those were weird or complicated, and they sent it there to get studied. And a lot of times there are a lot of Trojan horses that come along that you've got to spot it and kill it so that it doesn't mess things up through good intentions, or you want to make
reading the fine print.
Yeah, that's right. You want to make sure that today's solutions are not tomorrow's problems.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to November being over, to tell you the truth. I know you are too. But, I'm looking forward to what we've got coming at us in the future. But we can spend a lot of time looking at what we've got in the past and what's been done in the past and what got us here. But that isn't going to do a thing in the world for us except learn from our mistakes moving forward. And that's one of the reasons that personally I like you, is because you look to the future. How are we going to make things better for the people? And not necessarily how we make things better for the government. So I want to tell you, you have my support.
Thank you, Rick.
And of course you already know that. But I think that, like I say, the most important thing is people vote informed. And I appreciate you being here. If they want to help you out or get in touch with you or your campaign, tell us how to do that.
Absolutely. ReevesForHouse.com is a website. Matt Reeves for House on Facebook. I'm here in the community, 770-236-9768. Give me a call. Would love to hear concerns on your mind, Sugar Hill, Suwanee, and Duluth.
Well, please do give him a call. He will answer your call, too, or he'll call you back. I can guarantee that because I've seen him do it. Well, thank you for joining us on Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services and in part by Soulsby's Garage. Be sure to join us live every other Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. here on Business RadioX. If you miss the live broadcast, no worries. You can enjoy the show anytime you want by visiting businessradiox.com, selecting the Gwinnett studio, and then clicking on Case in Point, of course. The program is also available on iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, or anywhere you enjoy your favorite broadcast. Please hit that subscribe button and go to Case in Point so you don't miss any of our future episodes. For my guest, Matt Reeves, attorney at law here in Gwinnett County, and my producer, Mike, remember, I'm Rick Strawn, and also remember, at Paradigm Security Services, we cover more than just your assets.